U.S. military fighter jets striking targets inside of Iran. Missile and drone storage facilities, coastal radar sites at Qasem Island, Sarik, Jask, Bandar Abbas. All of those sites, poof, gone in retaliation for Iran striking commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. The significance of these targets right here is that Iran uses a lot of these radar sites to control their drone arsenal. And we know they've got a lot of those drones. So U.S. military proportional response saying, okay, you're going to attack these commercial ships. Well, a lot of your different radar sites, drone and missile storage facilities are going to go bye-bye. And then Iran retaliated to the retaliation. They launched drones at Bahrain trying to strike U.S. headquarters. The U.S. 5th Fleet Naval Headquarters is in Bahrain. Let's rewind just a little bit. So we know that Iran launched 4 attack drones a couple days ago at that commercial ship, the Ever Lovely, a Singapore-flagged vessel. They're basically striking ships that are near the southern area of Oman. It's said that they also struck another ship this morning. So the U.S. announced that they're expanding the highway, the southern highway near Oman, which means ships can go in and out of that critical choke point. But Iran is going to respond because here's the kicker. Iran stands to gain $90 billion a year if they continue to extort that international waterway. So at this point, those drones got ripped out of the sky. Aegis destroyers, F-16s, F-15Es striking those radar sites, just reminding Iran that there is a counterbalance to their extortion. So again, Iran's like, why? We're just the mafia. This is what we do. And the U.S. military is like, cool, we're going to take down your radar sites, IRGC naval headquarters, drone bunker facilities. That's what we do. And then Iran said this, as they do. Someone high up in the IRGC, potentially even General Tuna himself, the person who's supposedly in charge of the IRGC, they're keeping that very hush-hush because a lot of those generals have a very short shelf life. They said the consequences of traveling on unauthorized routes will be the responsibility of the owner, operator, and commander of the vessel. So not a warning, this is their targeting doctrine that they're publishing on the internet. They're saying if you don't pay our fee, if you don't come up near our shores, then we're going to strike you. And again, like good mafia bosses do, these are the kind of statements that they're going to put out. And then the very next morning, when they launched drones at Bahrain, the country that hosts the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters, the building that commands American warships in the region, Iran said this. The IRGC's official statement said, retaliation for the warmongering U.S. regime that attacked several points in Jask, Sarik, Qasem under false pretext. Yeah, false pretext, except you're striking commercial vessels because you want to extort an international waterway. But besides that, yeah, definitely false pretext, little buddy. Good job. And the false pretext they're talking about looked like fighter jets from the U.S. Air Force striking missile and drone storage facilities, coastal radar sites all across the strategic entryways into the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. F-16 Wild Weasels and likely F-15Es, although no confirmed fighters. This is just what a potential strike package would look like. The F-16 Wild Weasels go in. They clear the airspace. Massive cojones on these F-16 Wild Weasel pilots because they're acting as the bait. Essentially the same size cojones as a mountain goat. And yeah, mountain goat have some pretty big cojones, but that's nothing compared to the F-16 Wild Weasel fighter pilots that are going in, acting as bait, seeing if any of the radars turn on, clearing the way for the strike package, likely allowing F-15Es in right behind them to go ahead and clean up, basically mop up the Iranian coastal naval sites. And then stay for the global roundup section because we've got some hot topics to cover today. Breaking news from around the globe. I'll be covering that about 3/4 of the way through the video. And we're out doing some traveling right now. We've got the Strait of Hormuz right here behind us. No, not really. We're actually in Boulder City, Nevada. We got Lake Mead behind us. Nevada is an amazing state, and it's just been an incredible traveling and enjoying all that Boulder City has to offer, including the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam is just up the street, which is incredible. So we know that Iran struck commercial ships with their drones and then launched at Bahrain. The F-16 CJ stepped in as the electronic fly swatter. So here's the reports I'm seeing about the actual strikes in Iran. June 26th, 6 land-based U.S. aircraft execute precision strikes against Iranian missile and drone storage locations and coastal radar sites at Sarik, Jask, Manab, Qasem Island, and Bandar Abbas. There was reports that they actually hide their drones and ballistic missiles in underground facilities right along the coast. Oh, what? That piece of beach that lifts up and lowers like an elevator? Don't mind that. I mean, so many different options for them to hide these and bunker facilities along the coast that are now being struck. CENTCOM called this a powerful response. They released the video that we looked at earlier, and Iran's foreign ministry accused the U.S. of violating international law. The IRGC warned that the next response will be more extensive, and then they launched their drones at Bahrain. That's their whole goal, make it look like they're actually in control, like they have some deterrence. A second vessel, though, did report being struck by an unidentified projectile. I wonder who that could be at this point. The UK MTO, that's the organization that assesses threat levels in the Strait. They upgraded the threat to substantial, and the Joint Maritime Information Center announced the Omani corridor is expanding to allow simultaneous inbound and outbound traffic, daring Iran to respond to a wider U.S. footprint. And then VP Vance went on record. He said this: Iran signed a ceasefire agreement. We have honored it. If they have disagreements about how the MOU is being applied, they can pick up the phone, but violence will be met with violence, which essentially is the only thing that's going to matter to these IRGC naval bosses, these mafia bosses. They've got to be met with violence. Unfortunately, at this point, it's kind of the only thing that speaks to them. And we've seen this in war zones across the world. I mean, I saw it in combat. Unfortunately, to certain people, that the only way to negotiate with them is with a JDAM. You can't sit down and clink glasses and say, all right, let's agree to something here. You got to basically clink some 20 mic to make it work. But now let's talk about what flew those missions, because the U.S. strike packages here are incredible. I mean, Iran has time to reconstitute, but U.S. strike packages are still crushing them. So reports are saying 6 land-based U.S. aircraft hit 4 targets across multiple locations across Iran's southern coast. CENTCOM confirmed it, released the footage, which tells you a few things immediately. The mission succeeded, and the Pentagon wanted Iran and every IRGC commander watching this right now to know exactly what it looks like when these targets are struck, and their little fiefdom just goes down just a little bit more day by day. CENTCOM didn't name the platforms that were launched, but from a fighter pilot's perspective, here's what I see going in. The seed package, F-16 Wild Weasels, or as we should call them, the F-16 Mountain Goats, with the size of the cojones on these pilots. You don't send strike aircraft into Iranian coastal airspace without suppressing what's left of their radar and SAM network first. The F-16 Block 5052 Wild Weasel, that's the variant that is doing tons of work in this AOR. It's built exactly for this job. It carries the AGM-88 HARM, a missile that homes on radar missions. So you turn on your radar, the HARM will find you, kind of like that Stage 5 clinger in Wedding Crashes. Don't you leave me, because HARM will find you. Weasel's entire mission is to go in first, make Iran's radar operators choose between tracking our jets and surviving. Because if you turn on that radar, you're going to go bye-bye. You might get a lucky shot off. Good luck. And then when you see CENTCOM say coastal radar sites and a strike confirmation, a Wild Weasel was likely in that package, actually striking down that radar site itself. Once the door is kicked in from those F-16 CJs, the freight train follows. That's the F-15E Strike Eagle, carrying precision-guided munitions against the missile and drone storage facilities. Hardened structures that need something with a little bit of a punch. When you think about what the F-15E can carry, we're talking 2,000-pound bombs, even 5,000-pound bunker buster bombs going deep into the earth, striking those different facilities, and having 2 people, a weapons systems officer in the back. We know this F-15E has been the workhorse, with unfortunately some friendly fire incidences, and then one of them being taken down by that one missile that took down the F-15E Wizzo and the pilot that were rescued. These things are the workhorses. They're perfectly suited for this strike package, and teaming up with the CJ just makes it a no-brainer that this is likely the go-to strike package on any given day. And then remember the naval backbone. So you've got the EA-18G Growler, F-18s, and then you've got guided missile destroyers holding the Omani corridor, Aegis combat systems, SM-3 interceptors for ballistic missiles, standard missiles for cruise missiles and drones, and then a Phalanx close-in weapon system, radar-guided machine gun that can fire at drones, can fire at fast attack craft. So many different layers are now involved in this situation to keep Iran honest. And as we've heard, a lot of people will say, well, why doesn't the U.S. just turn this place into a parking lot, just decimate everything? Well, it looks like the goal right now is to go ahead and open the Strait of Hormuz, expand that Omani corridor, get different influence there, and play the long game. So what does that mean? To me, it means reciprocating. It means, oh, Iran, you're going to go ahead and tap a few targets. Cool. We're going to go ahead and tap a few of your targets too. A few love taps, just to remind you who actually controls the sky in the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, you can get some lucky shots with your drones, and the only reason that they're not completely decimating all the leadership is because the U.S. is trying to get Iran to the table to make some sort of a deal. And that brings us to the global roundup section, my friends. So let's talk about what is going on in Ukraine. It looks like even more drone strikes last night towards more missile production facilities in Moscow, in Russia, striking down Moscow's ability to enact war, which is just insane. At the end of the day, Moscow now looks to be a little bit on their heels in this drone campaign as Ukraine starts to ramp things up. And then China has done a 40-day deployment of their aircraft carrier, which I know doesn't sound like a ton, but they're basically extending the endurance of their aircraft carrier every single month. They're trying to get it to stay at sea longer and longer. I mean, they're decades behind the U.S. Navy when it comes to the logistics and restoration missions of keeping carriers out at sea basically indefinitely, but it's not nothing. And then that brings us to the 40 chess strategic analysis section, my friends. So Senator Graham said something interesting. He said, if this diplomatic effort fails, President Trump is going to take the Strait of Hormuz. We're going to run it. So what would that actually look like? Well, it likely means a lot of unmanned underwater vehicles having the ability to patrol the Strait of Hormuz from underneath and above. So you would need air assets, you would need advanced drones, AI Fury drones, X-BAD drones, stealthy drones that can jam these different radar sites, directed energy weapons that can fully take down and basically create a little iron dome of itself over top of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, do I think that's going to happen anytime soon? Not necessarily. It looks like the strategy right now is do a tit for tat with Iran, keep them on their heels. I mean, keep these mafia bosses knowing that if they strike these ships, there will be consequences. And that's what you have to keep doing if you want to keep the waterway open, get the economy going again, get the gas prices down, make sure the oil companies aren't price gouging, because there's rumors of that happening right now too. Looks like oil companies are being put on notice to actually get the price of gas down to match the flow of oil that's now flowing through the Strait of Hormuz. More than has ever been since the conflict started is flowing through the Strait of Hormuz right now. So those gas prices should be coming down.